Hello, my name is John Sundquist, and I work with Forestland Dwellers. We have published things in the weekly, talking about the weekly spray schedule and the poisoning the forests. And this is a long-time interest for me. I was started about in the late 60s, being interested in when I was involved in reforestation contracting with the Hodads, and saw how the poison sprays affected my fellow workers. Since then, it's become clear that it's not only the workers, the people that are getting hurt, but every other organism in the watersheds that are poisoned are being hurt equally. Audience participation. How many people in the room know someone who's been affected by herbicide poisoning, or themselves have been affected, either monetarily or health-wise? Thank you. There was a really terrific woman named Barbara Kelly who used to live down in this neighborhood. She's in, and she left a. I'm going to read her statement that she's made numerous times. She said, we moved to Oregon in September 1973 to get away from Los Angeles pollution. It was a wonderland east of Cottage Grove, up against the foothills of the Cascades. In 1975, they started clear cutting. The next spring, I think, all hell broke loose because of heavy, documented, herbicide spraying, which I am quite sure was Agent Orange. The environmental impact statement listed 2,4-D and 2,4,5-T instead of saying Agent Orange. But then that was followed by widespread animal deaths, human illness on our farm. And I have written about this extensively. That was from Barbara. And then my personal acquaintances and friends, Bruce and Tara, Morning Sun Organics were poisoned twice. And I'm sure a lot of that, and that was their, that caused a lot of difficulties for them. But this is 2013, and it is the 30th anniversary of the 1983 court decision that ended poisoning in federal forests and banned 2,4,5-T across the country. And that was brought to, that occurred because local people in Oregon, in the Coast Range and around, decided that they had had enough, and they were going to take and they were going to do what they had to do to protect their families. And I think we're in that kind of a situation again. And there's resistance to forest poisoning and the Oregon Forest Practices Act starting all over Western Oregon. Maybe the water districts, the Cedar water districts, and then numerous cases on the northern coast. And then, so we get to the one that we're probably all familiar with is the Highway 36 exposure investigation that was undertaken by the Oregon Health Authority. And they just released some more of their information. They have a whole, they've been taking statements from people and responding to them. But basically what the Oregon Health Authority can tell us is that people are being exposed to poisons, but there's nothing we can do about it. And why is that? Why is that? Why can't we protect our families with a lawsuit, with preventing of further damage? Why can't we say that you've injured my families? We have the documentation. Here's the lab test. Here's showing it in the soil. Here's it is in our animals. Why can't we get our right of redress here? The constitutional guaranteed right of redress. No Article 1, Section 10, administration of justice of our Oregon Constitution. Our United States Constitution says you'll have right of redress too. It's because the state is basically controlled and corrupted by the timber industry, by the deforestation industry, shall I say. And so that when the state gets involved, this is what happens. It takes the constitutional rights of redress and property rights of citizens. The property right is the right to enjoy the peace of your own property, and that's taken. These are in the famous right to farm and forest laws. The state gives immunity, liability immunity, to the spray operators, and this actually encourages reckless aerial application of practices that aerial applications the Oregon Supreme Court has ruled ultra hazardous. And the state gets in to prohibit local governments from protecting citizens from aerial poisoning to any degree greater than the state, which is not protecting you. So that's called the preemption laws. And then the state declares through the Oregon Forest Practices Act, aerial poisoning and air and water pollution are normal practices. That's just what's going to happen. And then the state will prevent citizens and medical caregivers from knowing when you will be poisoned or what specific chemicals you will be poisoned with. And in the case of the Clean Water Act lawsuits to protect the waters of the state brought by its citizens, the state sided with the industrial polluters, with the deforestation industry, and to avoid cleaning up our waters or giving any problems to the deforestation industry. And then ultimately, the state ignores the effects of carbon pollution and carbon loss. Now, Ernie, you were in the negotiations in the governor's office coming up to this O&C commission. Did they ever even consider climate change and carbon storage? Was that a lot?
I raised the issue with them twice, and it was blown off both times.
So you have here a whole state government in denial, and we end up being paying for that. And then the state ultimately is ignoring the fate of all societies that destroyed their forests, their soils, and biodiversity. Every time that has happened throughout history, there's been economic and environmental collapse and starvation. And that's the direction we're heading if we keep going down the Oregon Forest Practices Act. And so I think that we have to kind of agree as we start dealing with the problems of this. I mean, I say it's a state difficulty because our legislators and our governor and our public officials have all taken an oath to protect us and our Constitution. But we know that a timber industry is like a business. It's going to do the best it can to get around, to avoid liability, to increase profits, and to make sales. It's in business to deforest, and that's what it does. But the state should be in business as it was formed to protect its citizens. And I wanted to say one more thing, or maybe a few more things, but one of them has to do with the accumulation. It was in Faye's article about the poverty and the child abuse and all the things that were emanating from the lack of money that these counties were unwilling to assess themselves. A lot of that occurred as a direct result of the timber industry, their tax privileges that they've been giving themselves over the last terrifically in the 1990 legislatures. They got a whole variety of things, and then they've separated into timber investment management organizations. They've diversified, and so the whole effect is that the problems that the counties are facing were caused by the timber industry, but the big problem is going to be coming up too. In the past, when in the bust cycles, rural families could go out, they could look to the forest to get food. They could, whether it's fish, game, berries, mushrooms, and they could look for other things that they could trade or sell. leaves, slough, brush, all kinds of stuff. In the forests that are propagated under the Oregon Forest Practices Act, which essentially promotes monoculture, none of those resources are going to be available. Is that 10 minutes? Okay. And so I wanted to say, what can we do about getting our day in court back? What can we do to deal with the Oregon Forest Practices Act and the fact that it's basically a license to pollute that disregards biological reality? And I think that we do have to think, how are we going to challenge the state and make this a better ground? And we have to be specific. And I think in Lane County, we have the ability to challenge the preemption laws and the right to farm and forest laws that have taken our rights, and that is that we have an initiative petition to give ourselves a right of action, a right of legal action, so that if you have been poisoned and can show it, and these are not frivolous lawsuits that are going to be entered into, then you can take it forward. Did I tell you how the Oregon Forest, how the right to farm and forest laws take your constitutional rights? They do it. They say that they'll give you the right to sue if you can prove that your serious bodily injury was caused by the poisons. Serious bodily injury in Oregon means organ failure or death. So you have to be able to prove that. They've taken your right to sue for nuisance and trespass to legal situations that are much easier to prove. And they have, and if you decide that you're going to go after them anyway, you go down and talk to your lawyer and say, I've got to sue these guys. He's going to tell you, A, the chances of your winning are minuscule. B, another provision of the right to farm and forest laws hooks you to their attorney fees, and they will appeal at every step. And once you're on that, once you're going up against a big company that has a huge legal, you're in big trouble. So I think we need to give ourselves a right of private action in the county, and I think we can do that with an initiative petition. The poop will hit the fan when it comes out that these people are going to challenge preemption laws. They're going to try to protect themselves. But just getting that far will bring these constitutional issues into the front and give us a chance. So I think that, so we think we need, so I support a right of private action and an initiative. What do you think about that in this room? Do you feel like you could support something like that? And then we can start dealing with the fact that we have a state and a Forest Practices Act that is completely out of touch with the way biology works on planet Earth, and we will be able to do that because, as we know, our personal health and our watershed health are inseparable. Well, thank you.